Pizza delivery drivers, what did a person do to end up on the no delivery list? The customer asked me to go inside his house to show me what's wrong with his pizza. He demanded their pizzas be free and keep them because the prep person forgot to put extra cheese on one of them. He snatched up the stack of receipts from my hand as I was trying to find his, so he had the credit card numbers of everyone I had delivered to that day. When I asked for them back, he said no and threatened to attack me, said he would tell the police that I attacked him in his home if I don't leave his house. I delivered the second order I had in my car, which was literally the house across the street. Then, as I'm walking to my car, I call my manager. As it rings, the angry customer walks outside, so I put my phone in my pocket. He throws the receipts of the other orders at me, then stands over me with his fist over my face, threatening to end me if I ever drive in his street again. When I get to the store, the manager tells me that his customer called and said I threatened him and his family, demanding that I get fired. I told my manager that's not what happened. She said she knows because I didn't hang up my phone when I put it in my pocket. She put him on the no delivery list and told him if he ever calls the store again, she'll call the police. I don't know, it sounds already worthy to call someone over. Like, this dude just threatened OP's life over, I don't know what exactly. Just from the story, it sounds like the love of the game. I don't think it was about the pizza at all. Next story. Not me, but a friend worked at Domino's. Craziest story she had was when she was delivering to a guy and the customer refused the pizza because she wasn't the usual delivery guy. Now, the usual delivery guy quit his job about a week prior. She was basically his replacement. Anyway, the customer threw a tantrum, didn't tip, and eventually called the store and ranted about the whole thing being a conspiracy led by J. Patrick Doyle himself, the CEO at the time, all to ruin his life, and demanded they rehire the previous guy who he genuinely considered to be his best friend or whatever. He then went on about how the pizza was made with tears of sadness and alligator bile. Pretty sure they blocked the guy. Poor dude sounded like he was having a breakdown. Next story. He would ask the delivery driver to bring the food into the kitchen and set it on the kitchen island. Once there, he would have a conversation with the driver about how hot his daughter looked in her bikini, would say that he would be ordering pizza later that evening again, and if the driver was interested in coming back with that order, he could bang with the daughter while he watched from a distance. The first driver that dealt with this ignored it. The second one told the general manager, called the dad and told him he is banned from ever ordering from us again because of what he was offering to the delivery drivers. I don't know about me, I think he should be banned from having a daughter. Thoughts? Next story. 1. Lived in an area where any driver got robbed. You live in a skeezy part of town? We'll meet you at a gas station 10 minutes away from there. No, you can't pay extra to have it delivered all the way. We're poor, not stupid. 2. Didn't pay for their food after ordering. Although usually that just means you have to prepay first, but in the olden days it was cash on delivery. 3. Complained about their pizza more than 3 times in a row. Either the order was too complicated, or they were too picky, or they were just wanting free food. Obviously, we couldn't help them the way they wanted to be helped, so we just gave them a number to another pizza place. 4. Harassed a female driver in any way. Guys were pretty laid back about it, but the ladies did not put up with a lick of BS from the customers. If you got a note on your account about harassment, you wouldn't even get a meetup note. Sorry, our system doesn't allow us to deliver to this address, but you're more than welcome to get it for carryout. We wouldn't even give it to the guy drivers because our system doesn't work like that for assigning orders, and we didn't want their business anyway. Next story. Delivered for Domino's about 20-ish years ago. There was this regular customer who was a jerk for no apparent reason. This would happen to every driver every time. Guy would come to the door, and as soon as you start taking the pizza out of the bag, he'd say, "Hold on, how long was that in your car? Did you take a bunch of other deliveries before bringing this one?" Then he'd allow you to take the pizza from the hot bag. He would open the box in front of you and inspect it. He was never happy with it. Not enough toppings, too many toppings. "Are you sure I ordered it with olives?" Then he would hover his hand over the pizza a couple of inches and move it around the entire pie, checking if it was hot enough. Oh, it never was. He would refuse every order and demand a remake. He would always laugh about the fact he wasn't tipping, literally rub it in the driver's face. He would always make sure you could see he had a few dollars in his hand, too. He'd hold it up and say things like, "Let's see if you've done enough to earn this." No driver ever received a tip. He would hold the driver hostage at his front door for a good 5 minutes just to talk down to them and humiliate them over and over, swearing every time he'd never order from us again. Eventually, I got promoted to a management position. The first time his order came in after that, I made his pizza from start to finish, cut it myself, bagged it myself, then took his delivery myself. I was at his door under 20 minutes from the time he ordered it. Despite how quick it was, same routine. I just let him do all of his stupid crap. Then he declared it wasn't good enough and wanted a remake. I told him I was the manager on duty and we would not be remaking his pizza. He then said he will refuse to pay for it. I accepted his offer, told him to enjoy the free pizza. He said he'd never order from us again. I told him that is 100% true. We would no longer accept his business. He just laughed and said he would call corporate. I encouraged him to do so and left. When I got back to the store, I noted his address. The next day, our owner called, franchise, not a corporate location, to ask what happened. Explained everything, told him we weren't going to take his business anymore. The owner said, "Oh, he's gonna be mad when he gets those coupons I sent him then." Dude tried to order a few more times from us, but we never took it. Feel bad for the drivers from other places. Next story. Took a delivery to a party. Drunk guy signed the receipt and then used the pen to trace the outline of my breast while I still held the food. I was in shock. I never expected something like that to happen. I was embarrassed. On the drive back to the store, I cried and debated keeping it to myself. Screw that crap. Told my manager, he told the district manager, and that address was permanently banned. My coworkers wanted to go beat his butt. I haven't worked in delivery for a few years, but I cringe when I drive within blocks of that house. Next story. Delivering pizza in Rochester, New York, middle of January, snowstorm, about 20 Fahrenheit with wind chill. He took the pie, said, "Wait a sec," closed the door, hear it lock. Lights off, pound on the door, freezing my butt off, nothing. Called and called, finally determined $20 wasn't worth it. Had other deliveries. Boss was irate I took so long. I told him, called him from the payphone and told the jerk off. Phone number and name by every phone. Do not serve. Never let go of the box until I saw the cash from then on. I'll wait here until your pizza gets cold for all I care. Next story. Not a driver, but I worked at a pizza place. A guy put in an online order, meaning he'd put it in himself and confirmed it was correct. When it was delivered, he called the store angrily complaining about how his order was wrong. I read him back his order and he said, "I meant to order wings instead." I told him there was literally nothing we could do since we correctly made the order that was sent to us. He called me an idiot and then told me he was tempted to come beat my butt. That was a fun one. Next story. Worked as a delivery driver for about 2 years in a small town. Had a customer that lived over 30 minutes away. He would order 8 when we were closing. Would do it online to skate the delivery cutoff time. Never tipped. But we were the only place that delivered to them. I went there about 3 times, every time end of night. Their kid answered the door every time, would hand me the money and run away with the pizzas, never tipping more than $1. One night they pulled that and their kid answered as always and gave me the money. It came out to a staggering 36-cent tip. When I got back and told my boss, he told them he was sending me back for $20 they owe me if they ever want us to deliver to them again. I drove there, they gave me 10. My boss immediately called them and told them they're banned and any order they place will not go through. I hated those people, so it felt good. It was obvious they were doing it intentionally. They still tried to order a couple times after that. Always 10 minutes before closing still. That kid is destined to not treat waitstaff well, huh? It's not even their fault. If the parents literally encourage not tipping, what are you gonna do? Next story. On a busy night, this lady, who is fairly regular, ordered salad and pasta. We told her specifically it would be a minimum of 1 hour, possibly longer for her delivery. She said, "Yeah, that's fine, no problem. See you when you get here." After 45 minutes, on busy nights, we write what time people call and how long we told them on their order paper. She calls up, furious, asking where her food was. We told her it was about to leave. I had it in my hand and was walking out the door when she called. Then she apparently got abusive and wanted to cancel. The boss got on the phone and told her it was 15 minutes earlier than we said it would be. The amount of people who try and bullcrap us about when they called is astoundingly high. She claimed it was half an hour later, which was something she did all the time. He called her a liar and recounted when she called and how long we told her. She got even angrier and the boss told her if she rejected the order, she would be permanently banned. She got offended and he just said, "Okay, that's it, you're banned. Find yourself another pizza shop." She's never called back, so happy days. She was always a pain in the butt, ordering one thing and claiming she ordered something else. So when I answered the phone and it was her, I would repeat the order 4 times out loud so everyone could hear me. She still claimed we got it wrong. Next story. My little brother drove for a cash-on-delivery Chinese place when he was in high school. This was in Palm Bay, Florida. I don't know how it is now, but at the time it was pretty low income and had some rough parts. He was sick one night and I needed needed the money home from college on summer break, so I took his shift. Pulled up to a sketchy single-story apartment building to deliver a pretty small order. As I was driving slow looking for the number, I noticed 3 guys staring down the car all spread out from the back of the lot. I got immediate bad vibes, but decided to call them out. I rolled down my window and yelled, "Hey, did y'all order this?" One guy came closer and into the light, saw me, and said, "No one here ordered that. You should go." Kind of chilling, to be honest. I'm a 5'3" woman and was around 20 at the time. Think the guys were 100% looking to rob someone with cash on them, and I often wonder how things would have gone if my high school or younger brother had been the one who pulled up. Told the owners of the Chinese spot, and they took the whole apartment building off their delivery list. Next story. Twist. Bad pizza delivery guy story. I used to work in the order center for a local pizza chain. Had a store that was infamous for crazy stuff, staff and customers. Had a driver who was completely screwed as a person. Would show up with the pizzas, blasting loud rap music, smoking a blunt in his car full of his hood rat friends and scuzzy girlfriend. More than once drove up on a customer's lawn. The pizzas would show up folded, dropped, upside down, slices missing, bites missing, and reeking of weed. Somehow he avoided getting fired until one incident that crossed the line. On one delivery, his girlfriend got out of the car and took a crap in a customer's flowers, all while the delivery boy was at the door. The delivery boy then asked the house owner for the napkins back so his girlfriend could wipe her butt. Next story. Not a pizza delivery driver, but a sandwich delivery driver. My store is extremely short-staffed, like less than half the amount of drivers we need to cover our area. There was one day where we were super slammed, had dozens of orders going out up to 2 hours after they'd been placed. We were calling customers left and right and had multiple people cancel, which we were fine with under the circumstances. We had this one woman who worked at a local hotel order from us. We tried calling her multiple times to let her know how late her order would be, but she never answered. 2 hours after she orders, the driver finally gets to her, and she's waiting outside the hotel with a male coworker. As soon as the driver got out of the car, this woman started screaming at them about how long she'd been waiting and how this is unacceptable. The driver just tried apologizing and offering to call the store to get the order comped, but the woman kept screaming about how it was useless to her now and to just give it to the coworker. This woman screamed at this driver until the driver was absolutely sobbing. We recognized that being 2 hours late for an order is horrible, but we'd done everything we could at that point to rectify the situation. Regardless of the reasoning, treating our drivers like that results in an immediate blacklisting. Next story. I was the only female delivery driver at a family-owned pizza place when I was 17. I delivered to this house and the guy walked outside to grab his pizza, I thought, and he kept walking past me into the walkway directly behind me. He was asking me random questions, and I remember trying to get him to take his pizza, which he eventually did, but then he tried to physically block me from leaving. I managed to quickly step aside him and get back to my car. I get back to the store, and the owner and manager said the man called and said his pizza was made incorrectly. The manager knew it wasn't, but they said he demanded I be the one to bring the corrected pizza back. After I told the owner what happened, he and the other male manager personally went back to his house, brought the corrected pizza, and blacklisted him from ever ordering again. Scary to think what could have happened. I was young and timid. I didn't even say anything to the guy at the time. Next story. DoorDash hid this no-tipper behind a different trip. Dropped it in front of his apartment door, took pictures that made it obvious I dropped it off in front of his door, and a minute later he sent me a pic with his empty doormat asking for his pizza. I answered, "Nice try." I uploaded a pic with the pizza in front of the door, and even described all the stupid stuff that was hanging on his door. He then answered, "No, you dropped it off," or something like that, pretending I delivered it after his scam attempt. I usually don't take no-tip deliveries anyway, but I made sure to have this guy blocked and reported him. Next story. Lived with a pizza driver for a while. She told me a lot of what went on in a mild-mannered middle-class suburbia. Most of the usual bans were people who ordered then reversed charges saying their card had been stolen. There were a few businesses they no longer delivered to because people would order to that address, and then someone would pick it up in the lobby, and then someone would call back saying, "Where's my pizza?" Then always demand a refund. They refused to deliver to the nearby mall because the mall security wouldn't let them in or let them loiter. So someone would call because they were working alone in a store and couldn't leave to do an outside pickup, and couldn't get the pizza because mall security wouldn't let the driver in for the last mile delivery. This happened with a few hotels, and if the driver didn't have the room number, the order was crap out of luck. Most lobby guards wouldn't let them in past certain hours, even if the customer said they would meet them in the lobby. There was also a scam where an office would order 10 pizzas for a, quote, late night emergency meeting. Driver would show up to some dark office building, get robbed in the parking lot, and it turns out the offices were closed and this was a scam to rob the driver and get 10 free pizzas by an unknown third party. I also found out the local fire and police stations only tipped $3 no matter how many pizzas they ordered. They weren't banned, but that sucks, dude. Next story. So, you know the movie The Whale? I delivered pizzas for a summer, and there was a guy who was straight up the character from the movie. He would order multiple times a week, and the people at the store would warn the new drivers. He was so large he was physically incapable of getting up from his couch, so he would make you walk into his house, which smelled awful, and give him the food. He always tipped like crap, too. Anyway, he would get absolutely furious at anyone who would ring his doorbell, and I guess a driver one day forgot about that. He blew up at him. At that point, I think they just banned him because they were sick of his crap. Next story. A little different here. I ended up being a no-delivery pizza driver. I had to sometimes do delivery if the regular drivers weren't available. We had a store Ford Festiva. I was delivering pizza to my college dorm. Dude came out, I opened up the hatchback to grab his pizza. He punched me square in the face and took 6 deliveries, which were 12 pizzas because we were the pizza place. He knocked out my right contact lens. I drove back to the student union and reported it to my boss. I didn't press charges. I did not want the bother. Anyway, a few weeks later, I'm doing my laundry in the dorm laundromat, and guess who comes in to do his laundry? Dude turned around and noped right out. Next story. Not a delivery driver, but I took the phone orders at a local pizza place near a college campus one summer back in the early 2000s. Most of the people were on the list because they would either order pizzas and then refuse to pay when the driver got there, or were prank callers. There was an entire frat house that was blacklisted because they were just generally abusive and crappy and didn't even tip the driver. A few people had bounced checks, so they were on the literal crap list that hung on the wall next to the phone of people barred from ordering delivery. Mostly boring stuff like that. However, one night the driver on shift came slamming in the back door looking absolutely infuriated. Apparently, when he knocked on the door of the delivery dress, the guy opened the door completely naked and visibly excited, holding a $20 bill in each hand with a giant grin on his face. He told the driver that $1.20 was for the pizza and the other would be for additional services rendered. The driver said that he put the pizza on the doorstep, snatched both 20s, and sped out of there. That guy got put on the list. That's not the only list this guy should be put on, but I don't know if that legally holds up. I feel like it should, though. Next story. When I first started relocating pizza, there was an order that popped up, and one of the older drivers told me, "New guy's got to take this one," in a sort of hazing way. How bad could it be? So I took the 2 large stuffed crust meat lovers pizzas with breadsticks and 2 2-liters and drove to the sketchier side of this western Wisconsin college town to a trailer park. The exterior of the trailer looked okay, some peeling paint and rust, but not totally run down. But then I noticed the smell. So much dog crap everywhere around the property. I knocked on the door and waited. No answer. Knocked again and heard a voice say, "Come in. Can you bring the food to me?" A strange request, but okay. I opened the door to see that dog crap was also all over the interior of the trailer. I had to carefully meander around them while juggling all the food and also holding my breath. Then I saw her. A morbidly obese woman alone and unable to get up from her bed at the end of the trailer. Her Bernese mountain dog that was covered with mats smelled the food and almost tripped me. I was able to plop the food down and rushed out to my car and drove back to the restaurant. Come to find out, the restaurant had been delivering to Molly for a few months, and she had always ordered the same thing multiple times a week. I talked to the manager about it, and he thankfully put her on the do not deliver list. Next story. Back when I was a driver, I worked in a rural area for a small local pizza place. We didn't have a large bill policy or separate cash bags, so my cash bag was my literal personal wallet, and I was expected to make it all balance at the end of the shift. Anyway, while out on delivery, a man kicked me in the shins and said, "Hurry up, female dog," because I took more than 20 seconds to break a surprise $100 bill on his $30-something order while still juggling half his freaking food. Granted, it wasn't a hard kick, but still not appreciated. I smiled and pretended like it was a light joke and carried on. I politely finished the interaction, but was freaking fuming by the time I got back to the car. When I got back, I told the manager, and thankfully, I never had to deliver to that house again. Next story. One time I did a delivery and drove back to the store. Right before I got out of my car, a truck pulled up next to me in the store's parking lot. A guy got out and started screaming at me. I crack my window to see what he wanted, and he starts accusing me of staking out his house to rob it later. Yeah, I'm apparently staking out his house with a giant glowing pizza logo on the roof of my car while wearing a pizza place uniform. Very sophisticated burglary planning. I keep telling him I've no freaking clue who he is or what house he even lives at. I guess I delivered to his neighbor. He eventually drives off. I go into the store and tell my manager about it, and then about 15 minutes later, another driver comes back and says, "That guy just took the pizza, threw it on the ground, and stomped on it." Turns out it was the same guy that followed me, and he immediately ordered a pizza after getting home. He got banned immediately. I assume he was extremely drunk. Luckily, never saw him again. Next story. I used to deliver pizzas when I was younger. One night, I got a delivery to the very edge of our delivery area. It was in the hood, and one of those one-way in, one-way out streets. I had a 91 Cadillac sedan DeVille at the time with a weird transmission linkage issue. To get it out of park, I had to put it in neutral and rock the car back and forth until it released, then I could put it in drive. To put it in reverse, the car had to already be rolling backwards or it would lock up again and I would have to start the process all over. I get to this delivery and can't pull into the driveway, so I park near the street. Problem was, the road didn't have a cul-de-sac, it just kinda ended. After delivering the pizza, I tried to turn around and one tire just slipped off the road. Bottomed the car out immediately. I called the pizza shop and the owner sent his son to come help me. While I'm sitting there waiting, a few scary-looking dudes walked by and asked if they could have my stereo. I politely declined. Then some random guy shows up and goes, "Yo man, you need help? You stuck?" He hooked a chain to my caddy with his Durango and towed me backwards all the way back up the street. I thanked him like 50 times. I tried calling the pizza shop to tell the owner's son I was good, but turns out he left his cell phone at the store. So I pulled into a church parking lot across the street to wait for him. While I'm sitting there, one of my buddies drives by, sees me, and pulls in to see what's going on. We're standing there talking when we hear gunshots from the street I had just been stuck on. My buddy pulls out his .45 and starts firing into the air like he's replying to a mating call. About a minute later, the owner's son comes flying out of the street where I'd been stuck, notices us, and pulls into the church parking lot. Turns out he drove down there looking for me, pulled into the driveway where I got stuck, and somebody shot at him. Put a couple bullet holes in his truck. We reduced our delivery area by about a mile after that, and put the whole neighborhood on the do not deliver list. Next story. A rich guy who was on a few-week alcohol bender bounced a few checks. One night he called up begging for a pizza. I foolishly said only if he could pay cash. He said, "Okay." A different driver went and the guy asked if the driver could take him to an ATM. The driver didn't want to, but did it anyway. The guy's card was swallowed by the ATM and the driver came back crying because it was difficult to extricate himself and the guy was really drunk. The drunk guy called again and I told him I would give him the pizza after we close if nobody wanted it. To make a long story short, I brought him the pizza and convinced him to go to rehab. His ex-wife wrote a letter to my boss thanking me. I got fired. No good deed, huh? Well, OP, you made a difference in his life. Maybe, I think. So that's good at least. Sounds like the guy was in a rough way for sure. Next story. I was delivering food and the delivery address had a driveway that was roughly 200 yards winding up a hill. I drove up the driveway and hopped out of my car with the food, which was a huge order that needed a box to be carried. Out of the residence came a woman screaming that I had no right to be driving on their property and that I was to walk the food up the hill. I slowly got back in my car with the food and drove down the driveway. I placed the box of food by the mailbox, snapped a picture, and left. Customer filed a complaint. I responded to the complaint, showing the food delivered and a note stating customer doesn't want people on her property. I was informed shortly after that she has been banned from the service. Next story. Not a delivery, but a friend in high school worked at Pizza Hut late 70s and would take home pies after late Saturday night shifts. His mom was cool and us stoners would party Saturday nights and watch SNL there with Mom and Hut's brother, waiting for Hut to get home with 4 or 5 pies. That didn't last long before management said only 1 free pie per employee. Hut was the only one taking pies home, so all the others would give Hut their pies, so still 4 to 5 pies for SNL. Then manager said no free pies anymore. So half an hour before closing 2 times a month, we would call in an order for 4 to 5 pies with no intention of picking them up. Extra pies at the end of the night? Oh, how convenient. Hut made it through the summer before he got fired. Next story. 1. Pulled a knife on my driver. Got the cops involved and banned the whole freaking complex. It was always something there. 2. We deliver beer, but there has to be food with it. Tech error allowed an online order to come through with only beer. Called customer to offer a supplemental pizza and we'd charge him at the door. Cheese pizza, $10. Whatever. Driver gets there and starts hurling slurs. I call to take payment and 86 him. He says we're stealing his money and to suck his wang repeatedly. 3. My driver tells me they've seen your dong. You're out. Slurs, you're out. We have a manager-only customer list, not always bad reasons, and we typically know the bad ones almost instantly. OP's got to be more clear about who they're talking about. For the first one, I thought OP pulled the knife on the driver. Like, I'm not crazy, right? That's just how it was written. And then in the second one, it sounded like the driver was hurling slurs. And I don't think the customer ordered that. I figured out that they weren't after reading the rest of it, but still, OP, be clear with your language, please. Next story. I delivered for Domino's in a city that at the time was a regional drug capital. We didn't put someone on no delivery unless they actively tried to hurt us, and I guess everyone just wanted their pizza because no one ever tried. I did walk into what I'm pretty sure was about to be a gang-related shooting, and the guy I strongly suspected was about to commit said shooting said very kindly for me to leave. I've told the story before. Basically, he saw me going to the same apartment he was and said, "White boy, you do not want to be here right now." Next story. This was the 90s and we used walkie-talkies for delivery. This one guy lived at the outer edge of our delivery radius and he complained about everything we brought. Not just pizza, we delivered for a lot of other restaurants. Wouldn't tip and would demand a discount. So every delivery to him was a loss for anyone stuck with his orders because it was a 45-minute drive. My last delivery to him, he complained about buns not being buttered. Butter was always on the side. He tried to hand me a check, but I radioed home base in front of him and said to take his order out of my tips and told them I'm never delivering to him again. He was shocked. No, wait! What was hilarious was all the other drivers on the same radio channel that didn't realize the guy was right in front of me and chimed in, screw him. He'll starve by Monday. Cheap-ass female dog's gonna have to cook now. Hopefully that was a come-to-Jesus moment for that tool. Next story. My personal blacklist some time ago when delivery was free. I delivered 10 monster pizzas. I can't remember the size, but it wouldn't fit in the front seat only in my truck bed. The company didn't have a maximum delivery area that I knew of. I delivered the pizzas 10 miles away. Delivered the pizzas and told them the price. They paid cash and waited for every penny in change. Yeah, even pennies. I was waiting for the tip after I said thank you and she didn't say anything back or even give me a tip. This company did not pay for any gas or mileage. I was dependent on tips. That was it for me at least. I've worked at Pizza Hut before that and it was good money at the time. I could afford a house. Next story. I arrived at an apartment and a very nice man in a wheelchair opened the door and was taking care of the transaction. Then a very angry squirrel-sized dog came out and latched onto my pant leg. Not a problem. More of a, hey, can you get this thing off of me so I can leave kind of vibe. Unfortunately, the dog was followed by a very angry large woman who was mad at me for doing the transaction with the disabled man and trying to leave because the tiny dog was following me. Apparently, the man wasn't supposed to open the door because of the dog, but this angry woman didn't communicate it to him, so it became my problem. I just left with this giant angry woman yelling at me while holding an equally angry tiny dog. This poor dude was in a wheelchair looking so dejected. I think about him sometimes. That poor guy. Next story. I used to work at a pizza place and was told the story of this dude who was there before I was, who delivered to this sketchy motel on the outskirts of our delivery radius. He gets to the room and knocks. This clearly unwell dude opens the door. The delivery was supposed to be paid in cash, so the driver asked for the total. The guy gets agitated, then slams the door on him. Driver knocks on the door again, then immediately the guy sprays pepper spray into his eyes, steals the pizza as well as all the cash on his person. The driver's eyelids were basically glued to each other from the spray, and he couldn't open his eyes with all the spray in them. As you can imagine, that was his final straw for a minimum wage job, so he never came back. The craziest part was the dad of this dude came back like a week later or so after this incident to pay for the pizza. He said he was sorry about what happened, but nothing ever happened to the dude. Despite all of this, the motel remained in our delivery radius because, quote, it was just one dude. Next story. I was delivering for Pizza Hut back in 2003. I had a delivery to an apartment and knocked on the door. Guy opens the door and he's wearing the whole black leather thing with spikes, including the leather police hat thing. The worst part was the leather chaps. He asks me how much he owed me. I tell him his total. Then he turns around and loudly says, "Honey, bring me my wallet." I already knew this guy was gay. I mean, it was pretty obvious. Then his partner crawls out of the room with the wallet in his mouth with chains and leather straps, which covered only a small amount of his body, along with other restrictive devices. Then he grabs the wallet and the partner turns around and he's only got black and metal underwear on, and the guy smacks him. It was pretty disgusting to display a act like that in front of someone at random. I don't think this is shaming to say, but I do fully agree with OP here. Don't rope other people into your fantasies or whatever you got going on. If they didn't sign up for it, they don't need to see it. Next story. There was a woman who would order to a house that was just at the limit of our delivery zone. Every time she paid, she would pay the exact dollar amount but skimp on the change. Like if the total was $48.73, she would give me $48 cash and shut the door in my face. This happened a few times before I finally knocked on her door again and told her she owed me for the change, telling her she was taking money out of my pocket when she didn't pay her full amount. She loses it, yells at me, says she'll be right back, and closes the door again. A minute or two later, her gigantic husband opens the door and asks what I did to make her mad. I tell him. He looks at her, looks at me, rolls his eyes and hands me a 50. Asks if that's a big enough tip to apologize. I said, yep, and he shut the door in my face. Anytime she ordered after that, we'd ask if her husband was home and deny the order if he wasn't. Don't screw with the people who handle your food. Next story. Family at the border of our delivery radius would order $150 to $200 worth of stuff from the Papa John's I worked at in 98. So you know it was a decently sized order. Every week. Every single week they would tip like $5. All the drivers avoided them, but I was the new guy. I take the run and my tip looks like a 20. Nope. Smile. Jesus loves you. I drove back and told the manager. He said he'd take care of it, and as an apology, my car was a gas guzzler at the time and I was still learning the routes, gave me first pick of the no-shows, the pizzas that people order for pickup but never came in for. Next week, the jerks call in their order and the manager takes over the call. Sorry, our radius changed. We don't deliver that far anymore. It didn't. We just blacklisted the address. Next story. I once was in Australia and my neighbor ordered Chinese. We were all outside on our porch hanging out, and when his food arrived, he thanked the woman and said, "Keep the change, you filthy animal," like the line from Home Alone. She didn't get the joke. 10 minutes later, the same car pulls back in and a guy gets out and comes up to me. My friend had already went inside his house and starts flipping out. It was her husband. I was convinced I was going to be punched. I kept trying to tell him I didn't even say anything, and it was a line from a movie. He eventually got in his car and sped off, but the adrenaline was pretty insane after. Next story. I don't think we ever banned anyone, but I've seen some crap. A probably 300-pound girl asked if the pizza was free if she showed me her breasts. I said no. She asked me if I was gay, also no. Then her friend told her nobody wanted to see her gross boobs. We had a regular we called Squirrel Master. He had a pet squirrel that hung out on his shoulder. He didn't look like the guy from the movie by the same name, just a normal guy who happened to have a squirrel. Delivered to a shady motel. Door was completely open and two people were going at it inside. I didn't even know what to do. Girl from the room next door came out and said they've been going at it for a while. Just walked in there and came out with money. A guy came in drunk through the back door, stole a huge box of frozen breadsticks and tried to run off with it. I only had to lightly jog to catch him. Got next to him and said, "You should give me that back." He didn't, so I let him go since he was a regular and I knew where he lived. He got arrested for a box of breadsticks. I forgot a pen, so when someone had to sign for their credit card, they wrote pens on the tip line and gave me like 100 pens and $5 in cash. High school kids partying and drinking decided to be little jerks. They were super rude, actually insulted me. I told them I was going to need them to find at least $30 for a tip or I was calling the cops on their little party. They didn't expect that and found the cash. I wouldn't have called the cops, wouldn't have wanted all the kids who weren't jerks to be caught on the crossfire. Guy turned the box sideways and started shaking it and said that he likes to eat it like pasta. What the hell? No one ever tried to rob me, but my coworker got smacked in the head with a shovel. He threw his work wallet down the road so they would go that way so he could get away. Another guy had a gun pulled on him. He quit on the spot that night. Next story. Well, on the other side, there was an address that was always good delivery. I'm okay looking, not Brad Pitt, but this very attractive, fit, young woman would always answer the door in Seriously, almost nothing. Outfits like just a cut ring of a t-shirt as a halter top and panties. She would also, after tipping very well, say, "Wait a second," and run and get more cash to make my tip almost 100%. I was/am married and faithful, but I always wondered if she wanted some, or was just an eccentric, generous nudist who loved pizza. Next story. We had a group of college guys order our largest pizza. We drop it off and get a call back saying there's hair in it. Bring the pizza back and you can tell they just cleaned out a hairbrush and smashed the hairball on top. Another time it was a school. They ordered $800 worth of pizza to be delivered before a high school game. I checked 4 times. Before? Yes. Not halfway or near the end? No. It'll be cold when you eat. It'll be fine. Okay. We make them and it takes 2 drivers multiple trips to take it. We get a call a couple hours later and coach is losing his crap over cold pizza. My manager comes after me. I'm lucky they took my side in the end. Next story. Not a driver, was my husband. Long story short, we lived in a shared house month to month. We both lost our jobs at the same time and fell behind on rent. The other woman paid and claimed the whole house and had us evicted, legal 15-day notice. The day we left was his first day for Domino's. Well, a week later, the lady called in for a pizza, and it just so happened to be my husband delivering. Her boyfriend tried to rob him at gunpoint. Police were involved and she was later arrested for having H in possession. She was banned from the place. Next story. I was taking a delivery during a cold rainstorm and slipped. I shattered my ankle and tibia and had to be carried into the ambulance. The customer called the store to complain that the ambulance was blocking the entrance to their townhouse parking lot and that I had crushed their salad when I fell. Another one was a weird one. Customer had timed order. Address kept glitching and I had to call multiple times trying to find the house. Finally get there and she tries to pay with a credit card. Order was for cash. So then she tries to pay me with a $100 bill. Nope. Too big of a bill, so she throws her card at me and starts yelling. I start to leave and she tries to climb into the passenger's front seat of my car. I floored it and got back to my manager cussing out the customer, phone call, for trying to carjack me. Next story. I delivered a pizza once to, without question, the sketchiest, most backwoods-looking place you can imagine. Picture in your head a very dark, rural gravel driveway in the woods with a hand-painted sign on the trees that said, "Trespassers will be shot." You come up to a shack of a house with one light flickering on the front porch. Bro, I'm a 6', 205-pound man, and when I tell you I left the pizza on the rickety front porch and hightailed it out of there, I'm not lying to you. I got back and told my boss, and he was like, yeah, absolutely not delivering there again. Next story. One night after dark, I was delivering and saw a pit bull in front of this house I was going to. And being a delivery driver, I've come across a lot of aggressive dogs in my area. Unfortunately, mostly pitties. And this one was showing some signs of aggression. Wide stance, hackles raised, staring me down while head and ears were lowered and tail stiff. I went back to my car, called the customer to leash or contain their dog, then I would deliver. She said they did. I get out of the car to walk back and see she lied. I told her again from a distance to contain her dog or I will leave. She pulled it into a side fenced area, literally 3 feet from the door. She could have put it inside. But as I got right in front of the sidewalk leading to the door, I realized that the fenced area didn't actually have a gate. The dog bolted out straight at me, snarling. I screamed, ran backwards, but was stopped by a car parked on the street. I tried to get on top of the car. I threw the delivery bag full of food at the dog just as I managed to get on the hood of the van. I'm a very short woman. The lady grabbed her dog and started screaming at me for, quote, attacking her dog, while she pulled the snarling dog back into her house. I grabbed the bag, ran to my car, and went back to the store and told my GM to put her on the ban list. He knew me for years even before he was a GM, and I was his best driver. I'd never been this shaken or told him someone needed to be banned. He immediately agreed and sent me home for the night as I was so shaken, and my shift was nearly over anyway. The next day, I was told she called after I left and tried to lie, saying I stole her food. She never even paid. Also saying I attacked her dog, and that was why it tried to attack me back. My GM called her bluff and told her she was banned from delivery. She then kept going off, threatening to then attack me herself, and got her name and number banned from ordering at all. Next story. I have a few. I had a guy find me on Facebook without knowing my name, no name tags, and everyone at the store denied giving my name out to anyone. So my best guess is that he looked through the town's lost pet group with over 10,000 people in it to find me by my face, all because I said his dog was cute. One time I delivered a large pizza and a 2-liter to a house full of dudes who all stood and watched silently while I handed the food over. 2 hours later, they ordered the exact same thing. Same pizza topping, same kind of soda. My coworker said they tried to rob him with an Uzi, so that was probably meant for me. Had another old dude who would just not stop talking to me, telling me how much I looked like his dead wife. Whole time he's standing with his front door open and got his hand behind the door. Finally managed to get away, got back to the store, asked my manager about it. He said, "Oh, that's Mike the gardener. He keeps a machete behind the door." My theory is that he murdered his wife, chopped her up with a machete and buried her, hence the gardener name. Oh, a machete by the door. Of course. I did genuinely forget about the door machete. That's my mistake. Pretty much everyone has one. Next story. Took a delivery to a guy who was obviously 3 sheets to the wind. He kept flirting with me and trying to find out when I was going to be finished my shift. Drunk guys don't normally faze me, but this guy was creepy enough to make me uneasy. I finally managed to get away from him by saying something like, "Your pizza's getting cold." And he's like, yeah, I need to go eat." I didn't raise my voice and stayed polite the entire time. Got back to the store less than 3 minutes later. My GM was just hanging up the phone and asked me one question. "What happened with that last delivery?" I told the drunk guy, being flirty, creepy, etc. This jerk called the store the second he got back in his house and accused me of cussing him out, calling him all sorts of names, and generally being rude as hell. She was pretty sure he was lying and could tell he had been drinking. When she heard my side, she opened up his account and blacklisted him on the spot. Next story. If you make me deliver through a side window because you're too lazy to walk through the front door and you tip in change, then complain to the manager your pepperoni pizza has a funny liquid on top, oils from great pepperoni and mozzarella, I will make up a story, if I need to, why you should be permanently banned. Some drivers prefer other methods of retribution. They will spit or pee on your pizza, or they do worse. This will happen because you've been a pain in the butt in the past, or you're a crappy tipper. I will also permanently ban any customer with an aggressive dog, unless you are a good tipper and make an effort to stop the dog from interfering with the delivery, that is. Next story. Lived in the wrong apartment complex. We had tons of issues there, but the final straw was an attempted robbery. We had tons of issues previously with people just not answering their door or phone when we arrived. So they were already by far all the driver's least favorite complex. Then one day they deliberately put the wrong address on the order. So when the driver got there, they called and were told to walk across the courtyard to a different building in the complex where they were approached from behind at knife point. Had they chosen me or pretty much any of our other drivers who were all chill stoners as the target, they're getting my money and I'm taking the rest of the day off. However, they chose the one maniac ex-Marine amateur MMA fighter who'd been training his whole life for this moment. They got immediately disarmed and restrained until the cops arrived. Next story. Former Pizza Hut driver. Pulled a gun on someone, hit someone, frequently calling in cash orders and not having cash upon delivery. Certain areas they would only let the boys deliver to because it was dangerous, robberies, etc. Unjustified Karens like, "Your pizza can definitely be wrong or messed up, but if you order every Wednesday, we double check everything's good. You get it? Then call in half an hour saying how everything was wrong." That's just unjustified Karenage. On the flip side, there's some really sweet people who you look forward to seeing. I always carried an emergency stash of plates, napkins, forks, cheese, and peppers in my car, and people really appreciated that, especially the hotel people. I would definitely do it again. Next story. Had to do delivery to a hen's party. Arrived to the house and could hear a loud gathering inside. Knocked as usual and took a good 3 knocks and waiting to finally have someone answer the door. 2 women answered the door, giggly drunk, and they asked me to carry the order inside. Carried the order in, and as I'm coming up the hallway towards where the gathering was, the woman from behind me calls out, "The stripper's here!" I come into a living room with 20 plus women, all in the same giggly drunk state as the first 2. Seeing a space on the kitchen bench, I move there and unload the order. That's when I feel someone slip in behind me, and the laughter is getting louder. It's then that I feel someone touching me, stroking me, cuddling in. I try to turn and realize it's the bride-to-be, and she's getting very handsy. The rest of the crowd have their phones out and are taking photos as she does her thing while I'm standing there with my arms pinned to my side like a soldier at attention. I'm a married man. The moment there's an opening, I dash for the door, and I'm gone gone. Most frustrating part? The owners of the shop blamed me for carrying the order in and laughed at me. Bet they'd have a different reaction if the genders were reversed in this scenario. Next story. I was a gig worker before and during COVID. The platforms didn't do crap to ban problematic customers, so we had to rely on ourselves and a few independent city-specific social media groups to assemble do not deliver lists. These were some of the worst things I dealt with. 1. Family in a well-to-do area had a couple of German shepherds they allowed to roam the property and refused to train. I came to drop off their delivery and the dogs immediately started barking, growling, and lunging/biting at my car. I refused to get out, send the customer a text, and said she needed to leash her dogs or I would not step out of the car. She insisted they were friendly. It's not possible because no one's home. I call support, and after a back and forth, her husband, who had been in the house the whole time, comes out to collect the groceries. He corralled the dogs and began to pet them, saying, "See, they're just babies. Why would you overreact? I was sleeping." They took away their tip and left me 1 star. 2. There was a lady who ran a really awful daycare center who refused to use a wholesaler to deliver food, instead used Instacart. She would make massive orders of stuff, well in excess of what most stores would allow a single person to buy, and tip bait every single order. She refused to communicate and would report several missing items when the stores would refuse to complete transactions for, say, a dozen gallons of milk, eggs, and toilet paper. In the event the driver would fulfill the order, she would always report the items as smelling like smoke to get them comped. She had really specific delivery instructions and refused to send help to unload. She was comped dozens of times. 3. I stopped delivering to all luxury condos after several people ordered huge, heavy items and either didn't provide a cart, an elevator code, or a safe place to park while I hauled their crap up several stories. I had one lady laugh in my face, say, "Good luck," and her very appalled neighbor wound up getting the cart, providing me the codes, and helped me bring her crap up. I felt vindicated knowing that everyone in the building hated her for doing that after, because that neighbor was livid. The kicker? The woman who ordered was home the entire time. 4. There was a lady I delivered to on a busy street. I almost got hit by a drunk driver bringing her stuff up to her house. She thought it was the funniest thing she had ever seen. She refused to help bring the stuff up even though she was able. She stood over me like a supervisor the whole time. She gave me the creeps. 5. I had a customer attempt to put a catering order through the app using item notes. She ordered 3 sushi platters and requested I have the deli make them fresh with the specific rolls she wanted. The deli refused and said she's going to have to use the catering app for that request. I message her and tell her I'm going to substitute her request with the pre-made sushi platters available to buy from the case. They were the same thing, just not the combos she requested. No answer. I opt to get the replacement rather than risk a bad review or lost pay for not fulfilling the order. I show up to her house and she's already out on the porch. She takes a look at the platters I have and immediately starts condescendingly yelling, "I said I wanted half nigiri! Do you even know what nigiri is?" I told her no, and that I didn't speak the Wegmans dialect of Japanese. I was actually able to get that rating removed. Worth it. 6. During the meat shortage of COVID, I had to tell a lady that the store was out of the chicken she wanted. I offered a list of replacements. She asked me to wait for her to make a choice because she needed it for meal prep and had to change her recipe. I told her organic chicken was available and she reluctantly accepted. I moved on to the next item, which was an app glitch that allowed customers to order impossible increments of meat. In this case, she wanted a half pound of crab legs, no more, no less. The packages available were all much bigger and the meat counter couldn't divide them. She said the packages available were too expensive and removed the items. I delivered, and afterwards she removed the tip and left feedback saying I ruined her cooking plans. 7. I had a few safety incidents that weren't customer related, but involved neighbors threatening to harm me for following Instacart mask policy, as well as for having blue hair, for parking wrong, and for being an Antifa member sent to stake out their neighborhood for riots by George Soros. There was also a bum that was being aggressive on a corner who got angry and tried to get in my car after I told him I had no money to spare, and a couple of drunk, rowdy football fans in a crowd that were let out of the stadium who also peed on my car and tried to enter it because I had out-of-state plates. I'm a woman with an average frame, so I wouldn't have stood a chance if the doors got unlocked. Instacart's safety policy, by the way, was a joke, and they continually rewarded terrible customers, scammers, and drivers who used bots and stolen accounts. They also reduced the driver's pay and used customer tips to subsidize these jerks. I left the platform after these issues became so rampant. It was no longer profitable for me to continue. I genuinely feel terrible for the folks that have to rely on this service. Next story. This would have been about 1984. Delivered 6 deluxe pizzas to a fraternity on Langdon Street in Madison. They were having a huge party. I wandered around it for 10 minutes trying to see if I could find the orderer. Nope. Nobody there would admit to ordering pizza. Then some smirky dude suggested I give them the pizzas at a massive discount since, quote, they were just gonna go to waste. I told him, nope, I'll wind up taking them home and have food for 2 weeks. Also, your whole frat is blacklisted now. They couldn't believe there was a consequence. For months thereafter, they tried to call for delivery. I also blacklisted the frat members I could recognize when they came in to eat at the restaurant. By the way, I enjoyed the pizza they ordered and refused to pay for. It only lasted 3 days because my roommates lived on it as well. Next story. I worked at Papa John's for 2 years as a 20 to 22-year-old girl. It didn't matter how bad or creepy any customer got, how unsafe an area was, nobody got banned except me. I was the opening driver and decided to quit one night. I called the store to let them know I wasn't coming in the next day because I quit. The woman answering the phone was a manager from a different store filling in for someone. I said, hey, I'm the opening driver for tomorrow and I quit. She hung up on me. I kept calling back and she kept hanging up. Next day, I woke up to over 100 missed calls because they thought I no-showed or no-called. They said I was banned from ever working at Papa John's again. Next story. We had a guy that was technically outside delivery limits for our store, but called and said he was going to tip well. So the driver was given the choice of what to do and took it. He came back like 40 minutes later and said he got a $2 bill. My boss was mad. She was definitely a bit stiff and a little on the serious side, but really cared about her employees. She was the only boss I had in food service that would hear someone getting yelled at up front or on the phone and immediately bulldoze the victim out of the way to scream back at the jerk customers. Genuinely a good woman out there who I appreciated. I'm convinced some people aren't malicious about it. They just genuinely don't know how much to tip. Like saying you're going to tip well and then not tipping well is stupid. I can't imagine anyone, even actually mean people, would do that very often. I feel like this person was just, not up with the times, I guess. Next story. I delivered for Domino's many years ago. We had this house full of dudes who all lived together. Their address was the longest out and back delivery. They would order 3 pizzas around 3:30 to 4 every Saturday afternoon using a really good coupon we hadn't sent out in over a year. We really never enforced the coupons, and they, of course, never produced it. They would also always stiff the driver. I always seem to get their delivery too. One day I decided, screw these guys. If they stiff me, I'm going to require the coupon. Sure enough, no tip. So I told them I needed the coupon. They looked a little shocked, and they said they would look for it, but thought it was in the trash. I told them, I'll wait. They went back to the kitchen and started pretending like they were digging through the trash. They were making a lot of noises as they were clanging booze bottles together, laughing, etc. They thought I was just going to say never mind and leave, but I didn't. I just stood there. Finally, after 5 minutes, one of them came up to me with a mad look on his face and says, we can't find it. I said, okay then, I have to charge you an extra $12, I guess. That was the full price of the pizzas without the coupon. He angrily gave me the money when I got back to the shop. I told my manager about it. I asked him what he wanted me to do with the extra money, and he said it was my choice. I decided to split it with him. Next story. We had this old vet named Tony that worked for a pizza place. It was his second job and only during the winter, as he did lawn care in the spring through the fall. He always trusted his gut, so the company expanded their delivery area, and the first time he went out, the guy ordered a large amount of food and demanded he carry it up to the 3rd floor of the apartment. Tony looked up at him and refused. The guy eventually paid and logged a complaint against Tony. Tony's response was someone's going to get murdered there and refused to deliver. So they sent the other driver next week, and the kid gets robbed at gunpoint. They block the apartment complex. Then, a month later, another kid gets robbed at gunpoint, so they block the neighborhood. The community complains to corporate, so they force the franchise to try again, and the 3rd driver gets robbed. The driver quits and they tell the owner, someone dies, we're spilling everything to the lawyer about the known danger. The owner emails the corporate legal saying they won't deliver anymore because the profit from the area simply isn't worth the medical cost from injury and the lawsuit. so they side with the owner. This all took place in 6 months. Next story. This was like 8 years ago, but context. Customers had to specify on the order if they were paying with cash or by card. We had 2 card machines, but this day we had 3. Other 2 drivers had card orders, so they got the card machines. I had a cash order. Drivers also got paid by delivery only, no hourly, paid their own petrol costs as well. House was near the edge of my delivery range, so it took lots and lots of time and lots of fuel. I got there and of course he wanted to pay by card. Remember, he specified on the order that he was paying by cash. I said I'd have to go back and get the machine, which would cost me more in fuel for this jerk. He complained and said,
"No, the pizza will get cold."
So against my better judgment, I gave it to him to eat and said I would be back for payment. I drove to the store and back, which was losing me money on fuel and other deliveries because I wouldn't get paid for the double trip. I went to his door with the card machine. He opened the door, looked at me, and literally shouted,
"No, I'm not paying because you screwed up. My son is a lawyer, so you won't win."
Slammed the door in my face. I was, to put it mildly, livid, because this whole thing had taken like 30 plus minutes where I could have gone an extra 2 deliveries at that point. As I left, I revved the engine all the way up, dumped the clutch, and basically did a burnout on his drive and left. I'm still mad just typing it now. Boss tried ringing him, but he shouted at him too. So dude got put on the refuse service list. I refused to give anyone the order without payment ever again, no matter how much they whined at me. Next story. Not a delivery driver, but my sister was involved in a youth group in high school, and once hosted after our parents remodeled the basement. That was the Pizza Olympics night, when the group would order pizza from 3 different restaurants and see who got there first. The stairs in the basement had half risers, so if you had skinny enough arms, you could reach through from the bottom. One kid reached through with a wooden spoon from a game they'd played earlier as the Domino's guy was descending the stairs and poked him in the butt with it. The delivery driver didn't say anything at the time, but had his manager call us when he got back to the store to tell us we were on the banned list. My parents told the youth group leaders why we were no longer willing to host when asked, and the kid ended up writing an apology letter. But our house remained on the banned list. Next story. We had a regular who ordered the same thing several times a week. Baked potato and 2 Sprites. They ordered via online and or calling in the store to be delivered. He was never very pleasant to deal with and hardly tipped. However, he didn't do anything egregious. One night, after his food had been delivered, online order, he called back, as he didn't link his loyalty account. I let him know he could log into his account, get the order connected, and still get the credit, as the store didn't keep his account information on file. Well, he did not like that option and started flipping out and swearing at me, saying things like,
"I'm a freaking VIP customer. I don't need to do that crap. Screw you,"
etc. I let him know he couldn't speak to anyone at the store like that, and his business was no longer wanted, and hung up. Next story. I know someone who is house sitting for his uncle. He ordered a pizza and wanted to get it for free. Uncle had only left a certain amount for food, so he called Domino's and told them it tasted like crap. They sent the delivery back to pick it up, but he and his friends had eaten it all. In order to make the box feel heavy, he crapped in the box. Delivery driver smeared it on the front door. Anyway, the uncle found out a couple years later when he knew someone that worked there why he was blacklisted. Domino's just told him they couldn't deliver to the address. Next story. Customer called in about an hour after their pizza had been delivered. My manager took the call, gave me some vague details about hair under the food, before offering to pay me to run to the house to pick up what was left of the pizza and see what they were talking about. I get there and they bring the box out. 1 slice of pizza in the box and a large chunk of bubblegum pink hair in a Ziploc bag. Probably 40 to 50 strands of hair between 2 to 3 inches long. The customer tells me she bit into a slice and found the hair. I'm trying to keep a straight face, but ask her if she said, "in the pizza," looking at the pink hair that was completely devoid of cheese and pizza sauce. We gave her the money back and blacklisted them from ordering. No one who worked at our shop had pink hair or red hair at all. I cringe about mom cutting off a chunk of her daughter's hair to try and scam a pizza. Next story. I mentioned this in another recent thread, but we had a guy order several times and would answer the door naked, rock hard. He got banned, but after that he would place several fake orders to other addresses near his place and would watch out for delivery drivers and open his curtains, starting to rub one out, hoping someone would see him. I delivered in Portland, which, if you know Portland, has a crap ton of strip joints and massage parlors. Nobody ever got weird on those orders, but the ladies tipped well and often were half naked or in lingerie, so those were always popular runs. Most addresses on the ban list were drunks who habitually passed out before their order arrived. Our store was open after the bars closed, so This happened frequently. We also had a few that would try and snatch the pizza without paying. That was an automatic ban. We never blacklisted entire neighborhoods, but we all knew the shady areas and were extra cautious when certain streets came up on the ticket. We were supposed to call the number on the order before we left the store and only deliver if someone answered and verified they made the order. We also told drivers to bug out if they got bad vibes, like no lights on or if the address appeared fake. This was before GPS, and it was generally customary to knock on a few neighbors' doors to try and find the house. I did get stuck up once, but I don't think it was a setup order and rather a crime of opportunity. The guy only took my pizza box, but not considering I might have several $100s in my car. Next story. Ordered a pizza, went to the apartment, and the neighbor, a woman from another apartment, took the pizza and left. The owner of the apartment woke up. I explained the situation, that it was ordered to his address. He had no idea who the woman who took the pizza was, but the back door to his apartment was unlocked. I said, "Someone has to pay for the pizza and it was delivered to your address." He said he didn't have any money, then went scrambling around the apartment and finally found a cheap gold watch which he gave me as payment. I was like, what the hell? At that point. When I went back to the pizza joint, I had to explain everything to my manager. He seemed kind of incredulous, but I showed him the gold watch. Next story. Demanded carry-out prices for delivery because, quote, she was on house arrest, screaming things like, "You gotta cut me a break," and "When I'm off this thing, so help me, I'll end every one of ya." An ex-felon that I worked with ended up calling her back because she started blowing up our phones after we told her that we weren't going to be delivering, and she was banned. Dude was basically like, "I know your parole officer is not gonna like to hear that you were harassing and making threats because you can't get food." That finally got her to shut up and stop calling. Next story. Not me, but my mom worked at a pizza place next to the local adult content theater. The owner of the theater ordered a pizza. She was the only one working, so she made the pizza, then walked it over herself. He claimed it took 2 hours to arrive and he wouldn't pay for it. She said, "Sir, I took your order on the phone. I made the pizza. I walked it one door over. It's been 30 minutes. He just starts calling her a female dog, then says to shove the pizza up her butt. My mom is a super accommodating and non-confrontational person, but very occasionally she will hit her limit, and she will go nuts. So she looks him dead in the eye and says, "No, you will be shoving it up your butt," then throws the pizza on him and walks back to the shop. 10 minutes later, she gets a call from her boss asking what the hell happened. She thought she was going to get fired. Her boss just said, "Don't do that again." But he's a pervert anyway. We're not serving him anymore. Next story. Not a pizza joint, but my parents used to own a takeaway, and there was one customer who would call and scream murder down the phone if there was any hint of red on his filet steak. It had to be cooked to death and then some. My dad would always take his time with it, even cut it in the middle to check, but nope. Every single time. He'd call and our delivery driver would have to go back to pick it up. Not only his order, but the whole family's order because, quote, "otherwise it'll be cold." My dad would always make a whole new order. It became a joke and we always expected it in the end. What finally did it was this one time they called and the driver went back to pick up the whole order. He came back and he just shook his head. The bag came back way lighter. Turns out they sent all empty containers back. One piece of chicken with a bite mark on it. We still made the order for them again, but that was the last time. We lived in a small town where people talk. If you fell off a tree, the whole town would know about it before you hit the ground. Yeah, they made a name for themselves. Next story. I worked for a pizza place when I was 16. I was one of the few with a car and license who also didn't give a crap about the Friday night games, so I worked it. Well, football guys, being the lovable dorks that they are, would always throw absolute ragers Friday night. We'd have to deliver 15 to 20 pizzas throughout the night because they'd just order constantly. I'd show up and they'd still be eating the previous order and just tell me where to throw it on the table. So, how do you get banned? You use the wrong parent's credit card, and she comes in seething Saturday morning for a $420 bill the previous night. While she's tearing the team apart, manager comes out to me, hands me a stack of 5 extra large with everything, and says, "It's the party house." Our code word for our wonderful footballers. Well, that's when she utterly snapped, accusing us of getting kids drunk and selling them drugs, usual back crap. She tried taking the pizzas from me and ended up falling with a delicious pile of, well, everything on her. Her husband comes in and starts going about suing us for grand theft. We ended up calling police and having them kicked out, banned, and the house put on Do Not Deliver. Manager didn't even want to go near that place. We just blocked the whole street. Felt kinda bad. The guys always threw me some gas money and were pretty chill. Rambunctious, but nothing like the parents. Well, if the mom hadn't really given permission to spend $240 on pizzas on her card, I can see why she'd be a bit upset. Almost as if when you're borrowing money from someone, you tell them, or something like that. I don't know, just a weird, new, fun idea I came up with. Anyway, that's the last story for today. I would like to thank you all so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day or night wherever you are, and I will see you in the next one.